bars and gambling like go well together, right? And I'm not talking about like someone getting drunk.
Hanging out with friends and having a little money. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, your bar tab $50 and you put $50 in the game, and boy, isn't that kind of cool that you had 5 hours with your buddies and drank for free? Or
And welcome back to another edition of the Business of Betting podcast. I am your host, senior analyst over at InGame. My name is Jeff Edelstein. I'm joined today by David Woodley. David is the chief revenue officer over at Edge Markets, and he's also the co-founder of SpeedLabs. And your resume goes about 18 pages longer than that, based on everything I know about you, David. Welcome to the show.
thanks. No, happy to be reconnected. I know we've had a couple of good chats in the past. I think when I was at Playmaker back when SBC was doing their conferences at Meadowlands.
Yeah, I met you there. I saw you on the plane going out G2E last year. And every time I see you, we always end up having a small conversation. And it's interesting, before we even get into all the business stuff, this industry that now I've been a part of for, going on 5 or 6 years now, it is just chock full of loud, obnoxious people, present company included. You're not. You are soft-spoken. You're a little bit in the background. Like, you're not the one jumping up, waving your hands all around. I'm curious how that has benefited or hasn't benefited. Like, you stand out a little bit from the crowd in that regard. I really believe that. Is it your Minnesota upbringing? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I almost have like two personalities. Like, I mean, I'm very obnoxious and loud when it comes to like my sports opinions and like, it kind of opinions more on like a macro level, especially sports though, especially Minnesota sports. Like, I'm miserable. I host like a podcast with Phil Hellmuth and Mike the Mouth, and it's like a recurring bit on there is just like Minnesota, just like disastrous. I think in terms of like being loud and all that, especially in like this industry, is I don't know, you see like a lot of self promotion and people being like, this is the future, or like, this is the best thing, and like, this isn't. And I kind of I kind of come from this more worldview of like, it's not, even though like gambling is very much, and sports betting is very much a zero-sum game, the industry isn't. So I always try to like kind of work with kind of everybody, and not like some sort of like toxic positivity, like lift everybody up type thing, but more along the lines of just kind of like listen. I would say listen and learn, and pick my spots on when I am going to say something or make an announcement or something like that. I mean, it's funny because you see this, and I think one of the things like dominating everything this last week, whether it's like social media, but now it's like bled into like the trades, is the whole like Matt Kalish versus Kalshi thing that's going on. And I mean, as entertaining and funny as it is, I just view that thing as like a complete waste of time. Like, okay, sure. Like, congrats. You pointed out that like the retail bettor is going to get smoked. Everybody knows that. But like Kalshi's going to be fine. And like DraftKings is going to be fine. And like 5 others are going to be fine. And I don't know, it's just like this weird posturing thing that I don't understand what it serves. And then like, I think the worst thing too is you can like pound your chest and like, God forbid you're wrong on something, and then like, you're kind of remembered for that for a while. So yeah, I try to keep it cool on that sort of thing.
Definitely, you definitely do. You've been in the gambling world for a very long time, obviously, pre-PASPA. What made you get into the whole slipstream of gambling to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I really didn't care about anything. Well, besides like the important stuff, like family, friends, like I want to be clear, like that's important to me and it still is. But like in terms of like interests and stuff, like sports was kind of the only thing that really drew me to anything. And that even went to like when I went to college, like I wanted to be like an athlete growing up, but like very quickly realized that wasn't going to happen. Wanted to be a coach, realized that was going to happen. But I always want to like get in the sports industry, right? And like I always like wanted to either get into like sports radio or like play-by-play or something like that. So, I go off to college, I'm like an engineering major, like hate it. Started interning for like the local sports radio station, had a blast. But what you kind of find out in that world is A, hard to make a living. And then B, I was in like Oklahoma, right? And I was at this sports radio station. So if I ever wanted a chance to actually get my own show, like you start so far down on the list. And now podcasting and stuff has changed it since then, right? But like back then, like there was no podcasting for the most part. So it's like I would have been so far down on the list. And it's like every time like a former OU player wanted to have a show, like they would get it, right? Because they'd like bring in an audience, even though like, listen, there's plenty of athletes out there. And I think media's gotten a lot better over the years with getting athletes that actually know what they're talking about. But for a while there, like there was just a lot of athletes on like ESPN and some of these broadcasts that were just like clueless, and like all these good, smart people would be kept in the wings. So I was like, okay, I can't do that. I just need to, graduate college with a degree and figure my way out into sports. So kind of found my way into like media So it sort of made a career there. But like every chance I had to then go take a leap and do something in the sports space, I immediately did that. So like I think the first company I worked with, like, it was a long time ago. You may remember it was Fantasy Sports Ventures, which was kind of like, I mean, this is way pre-legalization of sports betting, but like this is kind of when people started taking fantasy sports a little bit more seriously. Like the NFL kind of finally embraced it. And like we were effectively just kind of like an ad network for fantasy sports, but I loved it. I kind of had no idea what I was doing, but like got in there, really got the bug, got the creative bug and stuff like that. Kind of did that on left that, started a failed sports startup around getting displaced fans to come hang out at bars together, like meet up other Minnesota fans, stuff like that. I mean, we kind of like, it was during the whole, like when check-ins were a big thing, right? Like Foursquare and Facebook like that. Oh, we almost pulled it off. Like we almost did. We had a term sheet from an investor and he got cold feet the last second. And looking back, it's probably for the best. Float around media for a little bit more, but then just tried to, always wanted to get back into sports. So even when I'm at like media companies that really didn't cover sports, I was just like, let's do sports. I invested in this company called Playmaker, and then a few months later came on board there. And like kind of the first thing I did was like, I was like, hey, we need to, media's tough. It's been a tough space for a long time in order to like build a business in a lot of ways. And it was just like, we got to like dive headfirst into the betting side, and we got to like find our angle and our voice there. We kind of built that from scratch and did a good enough job where we were able to have an exit there. And then, once that happened, it was pretty clear I wanted to kind of stay in this industry kind of for the long term.
Going back to Playmaker for a second, you guys were bought by Better Collective, which I think at its height bought about 13,000 different companies. And that's maybe an exaggeration. It may not be, honestly. But what lessons, looking back, do you take away from your time at Playmaker, like leading to the exit?
Man, like Playmaker was such a fun one because it was so small company when I joined. And there was like a lot of people that were kind of working on it as consultants and advisors and stuff. But I don't want to say like it was on the cutting edge or anything like that, but it was very much just like we were trying to figure out how to make it work as much as possible, right? Like the core leadership there over, previously, like the 4 or 5 years previously, they built up like insane assets on social media, right? Like Instagram and Twitter and TikTok a little bit and Snap. And that's kind of what drew me in, is like they built these audiences on these platforms. And then like the big challenge there was like, okay, like how do we kind of monetize it now, right? And so I think the takeaways there was just like try a bunch of things, like sort of embrace failure. I mean, we tried a lot of things failed. Betting hit, but even the betting content didn't hit. I mean, it's like we tried so much content around betting that just like flopped, but it's just sticking with things and trying it, and also like embracing the failure, not being like wed to something where it's like, okay, like we're going to keep doing this and we're going to crash the company because we're so thick headed on it. It was just very much just like, okay, like this content didn't work. Let's try something else because like we need to do it, because if we don't figure this out, like we're going to be out of money in like 3-4 months. And then, yeah, kind of got to this inflection point as a company where we either were going to go raise or potentially sell. Better Collective kind of came sniffing around at the same time we were going to go raise a proper seed or Series A. We got the LOI from Better Collective and the term sheet from the lead investor on the same day. And we kind of said, hey, let's go down this path of selling. In terms of learnings, I mean, man, if you could do things over, you probably do a lot of different things over. But I think for the most part, it was a pretty good outcome, right? Like the co-founders who spent a lot of time and years into it walked away happy. The shareholders walked away happy. I mean, our valuation increased quite a bit. And a lot of what I think I'm most proud of, I lasted like 2 months at Better Collective. So it's like, I can't really speak to much of what went on there. But I think what I'm most proud of is like, you kind of see this going back to sports, like the idea of like a coaching tree. And I think like one of the things that aren't celebrated enough, kind of like the tree of talent that goes out there. And like, I had the mostly pleasure of working for Gawker Media back in the day. And, I mean, like there's movies and books written about Gawker, right? What they did wrong, what they didn't. But like, I think one of the things that Gawker did, which I always didn't understand, like how Nick Denton, like never, I don't know, he never embraced this all the way, was like Gawker gave so many people like that start that like you now flash forward 10 years later and you kind of look where everyone is. And it's kind of like that coaching tree, right? That like Bill Parcells one where it's like the freaking assistant video coordinator is now like doing this there. And like, you look at like the Gawker bylines and they're like all over the place. Like they're leading like a lot of the, real media sort of companies and things like that as well. And I always kind of said, like, as I work my way up in companies and things like that, I kind of want to like embrace that and like kind of want to help people out in their careers and all that as well. So, I mean, we had people at Playmaker that were like entry level employees, but then they got into Better Collective. They were able to like make a move there and work their way up, or they were able to just kind of like leverage that on their resume and like go do some other cool things. And now you take a step back. I mean, we only sold the company, I think, like 3-4 years ago. You take a step back and like there's a ton of these, like what it's blossomed into is like shaping this entire industry. And it's like great to see kind of from like a pride standpoint, but from the other standpoint, it's kind of cool too. Cause like now you have a network of people you can call on to be like, hey, we work together. I hope I did okay by you. Like, let's get a deal done. Or do you know someone that can like help this out or that out? Or can you refer someone to this? And I think that's like biggest learning I've had. And the one I would just kind of stress to anyone going through into that is just like always kind of have that bigger picture in mind, which can be tough.
Yeah. As you were touching on before, the intersection of betting and media, you've been kind of in the middle of it for years now. What do you think media companies still don't understand about the betting public?
Yeah, I mean, I think where Playmaker actually did a good job is like we took it seriously. We're gonna actually spend time, talk to people, try a bunch of stuff, and like find their voice. Whereas like a lot of other media companies, and I'm not talking about like media companies that are around betting, right? There's obviously media companies that like know what they're doing, who they're talking to. Like I think like Book It, like the Trent and those guys, Book It Sports are like geniuses, right? Like they knew who their audience is, they nail it. That's why it's so successful. But like, you saw it as like betting became popular, like all the major publications, like we need a betting arm, we need a betting division. And it all just kind of, and I've been in a million of these meetings. I've talked to a million of these companies and they're just like, oh, we'll just have like someone make picks, like how hard can it be? I still like, don't like the fact that like 90% of the content is like picks and picks driven because like, as you and I know, anyone that's actually a pro or winning is not giving those picks, nor does it work that way anyways. Like if you are winning better, you are putting that bet in now. And an hour later, when it goes to publish, if that line is still the exact same and everyone can still get it, you're probably on the wrong side, right? And I think it also kind of buries this whole RG angle, which I think like I wish publications would be more like straightforward about being like, can you win money betting? Like, sure. Like, yeah, sure. Like someone has to hit the Wheel of Fortune jackpot at the airport, right? And you'll definitely hear about it. But if you're doing betting, especially sports betting, you should approach it more from okay, like probably won't win. Here's how to do it responsibly. Here's how to get a bit better. Like, wouldn't it be great to maybe break even instead of losing? Or like, this can be a value add to the game watching experience. There's like a social element there as well, where you're like betting against friends and things like that. And again, there's like one side that will just roll their eyes at that because they're so hyper focused on just like winning. But the reality is, I think like 98% of people reading betting content aren't going to be lifelong winners. And so it's like, I think I've been disappointed with like how media's kind of approached that and like this kind of weird refusal to have kind of like adult conversations with people to be like, hey, this betting can be a lot of fun. It can be a value add and like you'll win some and it's great. Like it's a really cool feeling for someone to hit a 14 leg parlay. But if you're doing those, you're going to be down long term. So like this is how you should sort of think about it and all that as well. Because like, I don't know, when you're kind of presenting it as like, do these picks, you'll be rich. You now see like this kind of newer generation that can kind of fall into that trap where they think that they can grind it out and make a living. And then, and like some of them were with like Odds Jam and some of these other tools that came out. It was great. They could do it. They quit their jobs, but then all of a sudden now they're like 25, 26 and like maybe they're losing accounts or this, that, and the other. Then they're like hitting me up. They're like, Dave, do you have any jobs for us and stuff? And I'm like, dude, I told you not to quit a career to begin with, but sure, we'll help you out. So I know I'm a bit all over the place there. I guess my answer to that is I wish the media companies would take it a little more seriously and create something more compelling than just picks. And then also kind of focus on it from that sort of like, it's okay to lose. It can be fun type atmospheres.
Yeah. Well, the Lowell's podcast with Peter Overzet and Ryan Hooper, he said, I thought he put it great. He's like, the way sports betting should be is like, imagine going to the movies, enjoying the movie, and you have like a 47% chance of getting your money back afterwards, right? That's what it should be. I think we're a generation out. I think it's going to take a generation to kind of, I always bring up my son on this podcast. He's just turned 17 and his generation is being just overwhelmed with gambling advertising and no one explaining to them what gambling is, right? I think we're a generation away from it being normalized and it just being part of like the everyday experience. And it isn't, looked at. Same goes for cannabis, by the way. We're a generation out. We're a generation away because no one is going to look twice at me if I pop a beer open in front of my kids, right? A lot of people are going to look twice at me if I light up a joint in front of my kids, right? But give it a generation and all, it takes one cycle to go through. But it is interesting what you say, right? The media perspective on gambling is like, right. And same with same with the RG world. It's zero sum. It's either you're a problem or you're trying to get rich or you are doing it wrong or you have to do these picks and there's nothing in the middle that says, hey, it's okay to bet $20 on the Yankees tonight. And every day for the rest of your life, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, and I kind of wish I was there. And like I think you nailed it with alcohol because alcohol is like a perfect example, right? Like there's obviously like a subset of
tremendous downside risk.
yeah, that should not drink it, right? Like they shouldn't. And there's like gamblers that should not gamble, right? And there's like people that like probably should never try it. But like in moderation, like there's probably nothing wrong with it. I mean, like, yeah, sure, health. I mean, there's a whole slippery slope there, right? Like, is it great health wise? But like most things are. Like, is gambling good for your banking account? Probably not. But again, like I love the movie example too. We had kind of, I remember we talked about that same thing, which is like we view gambling as like, yeah, the same thing, like, right? Like you could go to a movie or go to a bar or you could go there. And like I viewed actually like, I sound bad, almost like bars and gambling. No one's really figured this out, which is like bars and gambling like go well together, right? And I'm not talking about like someone getting drunk.
Hanging out with friends and having a little money. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, your bar tab $50 and you put $50 in the game, and boy, isn't that kind of cool that you had 5 hours with your buddies and drank for free? Or if you don't hit it, then maybe your buddy that got the big parlay hit and he pays for the drinks and stuff. And like I feel like that's all been ignored because it is this zero something where it's like gambling's the worst or like this is that, and then everybody's arguing out there. And then like you bring up your son too, because I think there's this whole other thing out there too, which is like, and I always roll my eyes at it. They're like, oh, like the kids are seeing the Kalshi stuff. They're seeing this, or like and to be clear, I don't think Kalshi should be paying like a 15-year-old influencer to do anything, but that clearly slipped through the cracks. But I'm also like, dude, the kids are smart. Like I have a 6-year-old kid that like knows more than I did when I was like 16, just because of like, I mean, we shelter him, we don't give him phones or whatever, but he's like still in that school and they have older siblings and stuff. And like, thank God they don't know about gambling yet, but in like 4 more years, they probably do. So like these kids know about it anyways. Like you might as well like be straight with them. But like America's funny with this. Like we treat like prohibition like so weirdly like this. And you can trace this back to alcohol and even like sex ed, which is like, no, don't have sex before marriage. Okay, well, like people go do that. They have kids, like it's disaster, right? Where if you actually approach and be like, hey, like here's safe, this is what you can do. These are the downsides. That's right. And then like feel like the people I knew that were well adjusted in college that could actually go to a party and not die or come close to dying, or like the ones where their parents like sat them down and they're like, listen, like alcohol is not the most evil thing in the world. It can be very bad, but like here's like XYZ. I remember like my dad sat me down 20 times. He's like, you can have fun with a couple beers. And he's like, if you have a lot of beers and you go to work, he's like, that first time you go to work hungover, the next day, like you're gonna like realize it wasn't a good decision. And nobody's doing that with gambling because they're just kind of like, there's too much like going on like out here in the headspace. And then I think part of that problem too is like nobody can kind of get along there either, because it's like you look at like the Kalish versus Kalshi thing. I'm not saying they have to like get together and like sing Kumbaya, but like they should kind of like, I don't know, not bickering so publicly, because like the reality is DraftKings is doing the exact same thing Kalshi is doing in the prediction space. And like DraftKings exists to like win money off the bettors as well. So I always kind of like laugh when you see a gambling brand like present themselves as like player friendly one, and some are more than others, but like come on, like I mean, even, and I like, I love the Circa guys, we work with those guys closely and stuff too, but I always like laugh too, because I'm like, listen, like Circa's not trying to like lose money, like they're still trying to extract that money as well. They're just doing a really 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 great job marketing it, and to their credit, like they're offering everybody like really really good limits on it as well. But it's also like they're not being altruistic either, like giving money away. So
well, I mean, find me a company that is, gambling or not. Nobody's working to not make money, right? I think, and when it comes to the Kalish and Kalshi thing, I feel like at its root, it's just that there is like, due to regulatory reasons, Kalshi can only say certain things about themselves, which, I mean, and it is kind of painful to watch the gyrations that the Kalshis and the sweepstakes, that you have to, if we could just all sit down and be like, hey, guess what? This is fucking gambling. Let's turn the page. We'd all be in a much better spot when it comes to all this.
Yeah. And like, I mean, it's like the parallels, and I mean, it's like day trading is gambling too. I mean, like a lot is. I mean, all this stuff.
Well, look at baseball cards right now. Every day I'm seeing a new story. Victor Wembanyama's card goes for $5.1 million. I see this TikTok of these 3 kids whose grandmother bought them a Topps Chrome $80 box or whatever. They pulled Josh Allen 1/1 Shield, sold for $1.35 million. I mean, that is gambling, right? Like, and I used to be a pretty intense collector. Gave it up when I started playing DFS. Honestly, I traded one gamble for another. But yeah, the whole world is gambling. And going back to what we're talking about with the kids, the fact that the same middle-aged gym teacher in football shorts who taught me about sex very uncomfortably should be teaching me about gambling as well. It should be all part of it. We tell the kids about drinking. We tell the kids about sex, but we're not telling them about gambling. It seems very foolish.
I mean, I think you nailed it. I mean, like, yeah, collectibles, and I mean, it's like card breaks and all that. I mean, that stuff is aimed towards kids. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I was a big collector, got out of it, and like the pandemic happened, so I got back into it. I have friends in that industry and stuff there too. But like now they have these like online. There's a company that's raised like $1 trillion, and like their main product is like literally like you buy 1,000 credits and you buy $100 pack. And you rip it open, and it gives you a card that's valued anywhere between like $50 on the low end and like $10,000. And you're like, that's a lotto. And they're like, yeah, you do it. And they're like, if you don't want the card, they buy it back for like 90%. And it's like a genius business, right? And I don't know if it's like gambling, but it's like in that, I mean, it probably is, but I'm not going to say that word. It's something in that ballpark where it's just like if people can just kind of accept the fact that like this isn't going away, like this is human nature to the earliest days. Let's have conversations about the actual stuff, which is like there probably is a convo about how it should be advertised. There is definitely a convo about like insider trading and stuff, and like should you offer markets on predetermined stuff? Like that doesn't personally bother me because I'm like, listen, like if you're betting on like WrestleMania and you lose, like I don't like if you're mad about that, I don't know what to tell you. Same thing with like Survivor. Like I don't know, man. Like sorry. Like, but it just, I don't know, it gets into the, and they see like the 60 Minutes documentaries, and you have like Congress up there, and it becomes like a political thing. And you're like, no, like this should be a very bipartisan thing, just like alcohol should be. And like alcohol, sex, drugs, tobacco, like how those can't just be bipartisan always blow my mind. But then you realize that that's actually why they are partisan, is right. It's like, you're voting. I don't know. Anyways, kind of going down a rabbit hole there.
Without like being too much of a cynic, it comes down to the money, right? I mean, that's all it is. And also what you were saying, the gambling instinct. I wrote a story a few years back about like why we gamble, and I read papers, I talked to like, my evolutionist and all this, whatever. You go back 50,000 years, somebody had to try that berry. And you rolled the dice. And if you were right, hey, you're a hero to your little tribe because now we can eat these things. If you were wrong, you crapped out. But like there's always going to be somebody that had that. If the human ability to recognize a gamble didn't exist, we never would have gotten out of the caves,
No, 100%. And I mean, even like the American dream is predicated around like taking a big risk / like a gamble. It's like go start up your own business. Like you think like placing like $100 bet on a game is a gamble? Like try like, I don't know, like quitting a fucking job and like raising money and like not paying yourself for a couple years. Like entrepreneurship is like the biggest gamble ever. Like the person that opens a mom and pop restaurant that like saves their whole life and does that, that's like the biggest gamble ever. But it's funny because like they're like, oh, do that. That's great. Like go into, and there's a lot behind this too. It's like, yeah, go into credit card debt to follow your dreams type stuff there. But it's like, oh, this instant gratification thing. Oh no, that's evil. Like can't do that.
But and we're also, I mean, we are down the rabbit hole now, but we are also a nation of very recent gamblers in our family trees. I mean, it took a set of balls in 1890 to be in Poland, being like, goodbye, everybody, goodbye forever. I'm getting on this boat to God knows where I know like one dude, right? I mean, this is not so long ago, and we're all in the same boat, figuratively and literally.
America's becoming like 250 years. There's a lot of celebration. And I'm like, man, that's like not much time at all. It's like really like, those first 100 years or so, like pretty choppy as well. So like, it's a nation of that. And I just wish, I don't know. I wish we could embrace a bit more, but I kind of agree. I think it is that kind of next generation, and that next generation is already kind of shaping it too. I mean, if you look at like who is running the prediction markets, I mean, these guys are all under 30, like Tarek and Shane, like they're young, very smart individuals that like see the world in a different way. Whatever you can say, like they found a loophole or whatever, like they built $20 billion companies relatively like overnight. There's something pretty profound about that. And again, I don't think anyone's gonna like put that genie back in the bottle. So back to your earlier point, like instead of like being out there like proclaiming XYZ, just kind of like sit back and kind of see what everyone else is kind of doing and figure out kind of where it's going, and then kind of figure out where everything kind of fits in there.
Speaking of $20 billion companies, or hopefully $20 billion companies to be, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Edge Markets and with the SpeedLabs.
Yeah, so Edge Markets is cool. It's a fun company. I met the founder there, Senny, like 4 years ago. I invested a very nominal amount in it. Originally, it was a product that was going to give leverage to bettors. So it was almost like an Affirm, almost for betting. Like you put $100 into DraftKings and through your Edge account, it would know how much money you had in your account, but it would give you like an extra $100 there, and player would pay it back automatically over like 4 payments interest free for the next month. So the idea was like you could go to like winning bettors and give them extra leverage and things like that. It was a great idea. The market hated it. I mean, they hated it. We did a deal with Playmaker and we brought them good users and it was great. But like, I remember like during the Playmaker deal, when Better Collective bought us, they were like, you got to like cut ties with that. It's no good. So around that time, I think Edge kind of saw the writing on the wall a bit, which was like, yeah, great product, but the market didn't really like it. And then fast forward to several years later, Edge is it's a banking product, really for the gambling industry and gamblers as a whole. It's been growing leaps and bounds. The product most people are familiar with is Edge Boost, which is a bank account backed by a crossover bank and a Visa debit card where players can like put their money in there and it's kind of like their wallet for gambling. And like kind of the advantages for them is they get cash back on it, which is nice. So they're getting cash back on all their deposits, but like really it's making like frictionless gaming. So, I mean, we have players that want to be putting $5 million a day on like a DraftKings or a FanDuel or whoever. And like previously getting that money across was like so difficult. Like the traditional banks didn't like it. The sports books, like it'd be a lot of risk there and all that. Like for us, like we know the money is good there. We can move that money instantly for them. So we're working with like all numbers of bettors, whether it's like your traditional VIP casino players, some of your sharper communities, things like that. And then as I'm not going to get too into the weeds with it, but the rise of prediction markets, we're doing quite a bit there as well. And then kind of evolutionizing the company where we still have like the Edge Boost product, but we have a couple other products coming out more for prediction markets and these traders and these like market makers and things like that. Cause you see kind of like this new evolution of where it's going with the prediction market. So like we're kind of in a space where we're able to kind of work with everybody and it solves issues for everybody. It solves issues for the gambler and it solves issues for the casino, sportsbook, prediction market, DFS, all that as well. Because at the end of the day, like if the player wants to get money into the casino or wherever to gamble, like they should be able to do that. But like something that like I never realized till I got involved with this company is like there's a lot of friction points that can happen there. Even people trying to probably play. I mean, if you play DFS, I'm sure there's like a time or two where you try to like put money in and it just bounced back for whatever reason, right? So Edge is strong. We're growing quickly. Like it's a fun company. And then SpeedLabs, that's a fun one. So I'm co-founder there. We have some news coming out next week. We just raised like a $6.5 million seed round, which is great. But SpeedLabs kind of bore out of this idea several years ago around, hey, like survivor pools are great. Like survivor pools, like I think survivor pools like the best form of call it gambling, skill based, whatever. Kind of harkens back to that DFS idea, which is like everybody has that shot at winning $1 million. And like, boy, Survivor seems so easy. All I got to do is pick a winner each week and I can't use them again. Fine. I know what I'm doing. It's the NFL. All I got to do is go 18 of 18 or 20 of 20, I guess, if you're in Circa and you win like 18 million bucks. I just love that game. It's so pure. It's like on its head, it's so simple, but like, how difficult it is, but it's also like the one game where you can put in $1,000 and like win life changing money or, on a smaller level, you could do one with like 100 friends, put in $100 and win a good amount of money there as well. I was always a huge fan of survivor pools, but like the one downside is it's once you're out, and you got to wait like another 12 months to come back in here. So like we effectively created a game called Speed Survivor, which took a survivor pool concept, but it made it within each and every game. So you could take an NFL game and break it up into 12 rounds where people just have to answer a question for every 5 minutes of game time. Get it right, you move on. Get it wrong, whatever, you're out. We built this free to play game. It got a really, really strong positive results. And I think we maxed out at like 3,000 players one game. It was like very bare bones. Like we were kind of programming it and putting the questions up as, we were like, I was literally on the computer, like doing this, like putting the questions out there, all this as well. So we built this game, had some momentum, raised a little bit of money, stalled for a minute when we were building it. I had my second and third kid. I had the Edge job going, all this and everything there as well. So we were kind of at this inflection point where it's just like, hey, we have this great idea. We have like 90% of a really good sticky game, but we really need to take that next sort of leap. So I met our now CEO, this kid, Nick. Like I sing like Gen Z's praises all the times, but like he was like 23 and just like smart as shit, like sold a company when he was 20 to like Bovada for like 20 million and stuff, right? And then had his own VC firm at 22, from 21 to 22 and got bored. He got bored. He's like, this is boring. He's like, VC's for like old people that have too much time on their hands. So it's like, hey, how about Speed Survivor? So we brought him on in August and it taken off like a rocket ship. I mean, he took this, like looking back, I thought it was a smart idea, but it was a pretty simple idea, which is the Speed Survivor game. And then he took a look at that and was like, this can be so much more. And as he started building out the game and we acquired another company who our CTO came over from, as we built up the Speed Survivor game, we actually realized that we were building they're building these like crazy models that were spitting out these like 50-50 questions based on momentum in the game. So it wasn't like, who's going to score more of these next 5 minutes? It'll be like, Kenneth Walker just ran for 73 yards last quarter. Will he have more than 16 and a half yards over the next like 5 minutes of game time? So they were able to build this model out that was just crazy and be able to put out these questions that like nobody knew what was coming before. So it really gave everyone kind of that equal chance to win this Speed Survivor game. But at the same time, this light bulb went off and they said, oh my God, we just created like our own like sort of prediction model ourselves, where we created these like 50-50 sort of micro markets or momentum models, where then like we have now the consumer facing game that launches officially for NFL. But now we have this prediction market product where people can now trade in these 5-minute segments on games, which does not exist at this point because everything on the sports side is like full game type stuff, right? And now we have these full prediction market side of the business now that we're able to get on there. We're going to be able to market make and all that. And we were also market making on Kalshi and Polymarket coming up. And Polymarket gave us a really nice deal as well to also allow people to now go through the SpeedLabs Speed Survivor app and play there as well. And I know there's like, I threw a lot at you there, but like I said, we have our whole big press push coming out next week that kind of dives into it, but we're just at the forefront of like all this stuff. So like we started out of the survivor pool game, took a little bit of time going, and then all of a sudden prediction markets popped up and we kind of found the right combination of people that could just invent this in real time. And it's been fun for me because I've been able to kind of take a back seat and just watch them build. It's been super exciting, frankly. And, you know, we're hopefully going to be doing some big things soon as well.
I mean, obviously, by virtue of this conversation, anyone who's meeting for the first time realize that your toes have been dipped in numerous waters here in the space. I'm going to put you a little on the spot here. If you had to say one business model in the space that's overrated and one that's still underrated, could you put your finger on it?
I think overrated can be like the tools providers, and that's not all, right? I think there's actually some like really, really good ones, but I see like a flurry of companies come out that are like their whole pitch is like, subscribe to us, we're going to like tell you how to beat the books. Like it just does not exist, right? I think the ones that have pulled it off are few and far between. And I think it's like an odds jam, which is like, they're not telling you like what side to bet. They were just frankly telling you, hey, there's an ARB here, there's an ARB here, go bet this here, this there, and it's a guaranteed return, right? But then I think you have like a lot of tools that just like, it's all snake oil. Like you actually dive into it and they're not really providing anything that no one else can put together themselves with like 15 minutes on plot or something like that. So I think the betting tool stuff is overrated. I think underrated, honestly, is I know there's like a lot of people get into the prediction market space and like there's not all going to be winners there and things like that. But man, I love like a company like Forecasters is doing. Like they're not going to the predictions, they're doing like the sweep stuff, but they're still like a betting exchange. But like there's guys that built such an incredible business there. And you know, I think they surpassed a couple billion in volume and things like that. So I think it's more of like it's hard to generalize it, but it's almost like finding what that emerging or niche market is. Like a lot of people view niche as like a bad word, like, oh, it's not big enough, it can't grow enough. I don't think so. I think they've found like there's sort of like good pocket there where they've run a really good business. And I think like some of these other, call it like games or opportunities coming out, have kind of found their way there as well. Like, I mean, I think a Splash Sports is great because like we're going to do survivor pools. And like, that's all we're going to do. They're doing more than that, but like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go own the survival pool market. We're not going to try to be a sports book like everybody else. Even some of these just like one-off games around like a, you know, a specific sport or something like that. I think like that's still very underrated, which is like, there can be this need to be like, oh, we're going to go be the next Kalshi, Polymarket, DraftKings, all that. It's like, I don't think you need to do that. I think you can just try to like be that next odds jam playmaker. Prize Picks is probably too far big now at this point where it's like, you can't really go into a pitch meeting and be like, what are the next Prize Picks? Because that's like that's a $4 billion company. But I think Prize Picks is a perfect example of that. Like they kind of found that like niche early on. They built a really good brand. They didn't try to be everything to everyone while everyone else is trying to go get their sportsbooks licenses. They're like, no, we're just going to like kind of go to do this and do this the best. So I would just say like the underrated aspect is like the companies that just really want to do like one thing and just do it really, 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 really well. And like not have to be like the loudest guy in the room or not have to have the biggest market cap or raise the most money.
All right, one last question for you before I let you go. And if it sets you off, I do apologize. Kyler Murray, the answer or the disaster? What do you think?
Kyler Murray is like the classic Minnesota quarterback that will like be great until January. I mean, we have a long, proud history of Minnesota's like never developed a quarterback, right? And that's why I was like always hesitant around JJ McCarthy. But I mean, like looking back, we had all these 1-year wonders. We had like Randall Cunningham that went 15-1. Culpepper we kind of developed, right? So he doesn't really count. But like, you know, Jeff George had a career year in there. Brett Favre, you know, almost took us to the Super Bowl till he threw an interception there. And then even most recently, right? Like Case Keenum and Sam Darnold, right? So like we always catch lightning in a bottle for like, and Kirk Cousins is awful. Don't get concerned him. I think Murray is the answer for this year, but like in classic Minnesota, he'll get us probably to an NFC championship this year or next year, and he'll lose it in some horrible way. And I don't know, but I'm rooting for him. I know I went to school at Oklahoma, I'm a big Kyler guy. Like, I'm very anti JJ McCarthy. I hope Kyler does it. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but like they showed like the first play at OTA say, and it was like him throwing a bomb to Justin Addison. Again, it's like practice, it doesn't matter, but like, boy, even me, the jaded Vikings fan, can get pretty excited about that because like JJ was sailing those by like 10 yards last year.
I think Minnesota Vikings fans and New York Mets fans should form a group. I think we have a similar worldview.
I got to send you this article. It's funny. I used to host watch parties in the city for Vikings and eventually the Twins. And Bradford Davis of the New York Daily News, I don't know if you've ever come across him, but he came out and like profiled it. It ended up being basically just a profile of me, just like living my trauma as a sports fan throughout the years. And just like, it's really funny. And I sent it, I totally forgot about it, but I sent it around to people amongst this latest Minnesota letdown, which was like the Wild and Timberwolves both advanced in the second round. It was like the first time both teams ever done it in the same year. First time in like 10 years for the Wild. And then they both just like proceedingly like choked it off in different ways. So yeah, no, the Mets are right there. And my kid he's 6. So he's a Knicks fan, thank God, but he likes the Mets. He's a big Mets fan at this point. And I'm like, I don't know. We'll just like go back and forth between the Mets and the Twins, whichever one is like less disastrous.
Are you living in New York now or the New York area?
No. We're in Jersey. I lived in New York for right after college for 15.
You probably recognize this as much as I do. You know, I've been a Mets fan for my whole life. When you see the New York area, 2 guys walk past each other wearing Yankees caps or Yankees gear, whatever. They're too straight. They don't even look at each other. It's just 2 guys walking. 2 guys wearing a Mets hat pass each other on the street. This is the look. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, go to YouTube, go to the Business Betting Podcast site, because you're going to see my face. 2 Mets fans passing in the street wearing Mets hats. This is what you do. You know, the slow, like, grimace and nod. Like, yep, I'm with you, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it, too. I mean, I Minnesota fans have almost taken too far where they embrace the losing a bit too much. It's like, oh, this isn't the Cubs. This isn't cute. We need to like win something. But like, it's the same deal. And like, no, the Mets are like that. I remember I took them on the subway. You had school off like a week and a half ago. I took them on the subway and like the subway was like delayed. And like Frank the Tank was sitting like 3 feet down from us. And he had this like classic Frank the Tank meltdown that the subway was delayed. And then he left and then it left and he got an Uber and it left. It was like classic. But no, the Mets do have that. And it's that kind of camaraderie and like, I don't know. And like, again, like, bringing it back full circle, like I think that's kind of like the beauty of sports, and that's kind of can be the beauty of betting, which is when like a bad beat happens, it's kind of like your team. I mean, you lose in the moment, it sucks, and like when the Mets lose in some horrible way or the Vikings lose in some horrible way, it sucks. But like over time, you can kind of bond over it. You know, the Vikings, if you're wearing a Vikings hat, you're just like fucking Gary Anderson, you know, or like fucking Brett Favre, what's he doing? And like they're not good memories, but they're like, I don't know. There's like that human connection that you're like, I'm glad I went through it because I have this connection with this person that I probably never would have had.
David, real pleasure having you on today. Good luck, continued success. I don't think you need it from me, but congratulations on everything you're doing. And yeah, I didn't even know that you were in Jersey. We'll have to get together, have some pork roll, and you know, I mean that's what you do in New Jersey. We'll go to the shore, eat some pork roll. We'll lean into all the stereotypes. All right, man. Thanks again for coming on, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks.